Hey everybody, I'm back. I'm super excited to share this project with you. The one about the Stamps of Life mobile die. I made this one for my niece. You can't tell, but there's actually a shimmered pattern on the moon. And then I stenciled beautiful print on the bottom star there. The dies cut wonderful. It was really simple and easy to put together. Here, let me put it on the table. So here it is on the table. It has the really pretty iridescent shimmer pattern on there. I used some iridescent ribbon to hang it from. The yarn that I used to stitch all the little pieces with is I think it's Simply Soft, and it has a really pretty, it's baby yarn and has a really pretty shimmer thread that runs through it. And then I hung on the bottom of them the little ribbon strands, trying to make them look like little shooting stars, and then stenciled the one on the bottom. Yeah, I think it came out really cool. And it's a nice size. It's not too big, but it's big enough to where you could see it. You could use it either as a decoration or give it away as a gift. Super fun. Let me go over to the desk and show you how I put it together. Okay, so here we have it. This is the die set I had showed you previously. I used the large moon die, the large star die. The set also comes with clouds on the back, but we didn't use any of those. I used a couple of stencils that I got from a pack I purchased off Amazon. They look pretty celestial, kind of fun. I used this ribbon. I think I got that from Michaels. This is nice sheen there. I used this paint on the top. It's Artist Loft, and it's a iridescent medium. And the other one is Americana in the baby blue. I used this white yarn by Simply Soft. And but it's white, and you can see the pretty little shimmer in there. The felt is Stamps of Life felt. This is in, I believe it's Sunshine. And then I used she has Stamps of Life has a white, and the Stamps of Life felt cuts the nicest, the easiest, because it's a little bit thinner than this. And this is just those flat sheets, the little 8.5 by 11 sheets that you get at Joann's Fabric for $1 or something. It's a little bit thicker, so you have to do on the stars. If you use that, like when I cut the stars out, I had to trim out like a few strands of the fibers that hung on, but it wasn't bad, and it went together really nice. So what I did, I cut out two per hanging star of the white felt, and then 2 of polyfill. And this is the bulky stuff, the cheap stuff you get for the blankets. It comes in a big roll that's a sheet, and I just cut chunks off. And so then I used a die cut machine on these as well, and did 2 per star. The same with the moon. I did two cutouts of the polyfill for the moon as well. So you have 6 stars of felt, and then 6 polyfill stars to go on the inside. 2 moons, one for the front and back, and then 2 of the poly to go on the inside. I used these little pouncer tools I got off Amazon to put the blue paint on. And then I found that this iridescent medium worked the best using the stencil pal tool. It's a little bendable, flexible plastic scraper tool, and that worked really nice. Let's get started here. Let me stencil up the little stars, or I just did the 1 star, and show you how I did that. And then we'll go ahead and stencil up the moon. So let me get this prepped. I just do it on a sheet of copy paper, and then I put a piece of purple tape down, and then I tape the stencil on top of the star and then pounce it. So let me show you. Let me set it up and then I'll get back to you. Okay, so here it is. The stars are all ready to stencil. So I stuck a piece of purple tape under the stars and then stuck them down to the copy paper, that cheap copy paper. And then I taped the stencil down. And when I'm taping this side down, I press the stencil down and then push the tape. So that way it holds firmly against the felt and you don't get any kind of a bubbling when you go to stencil it on there. And then I just shake the paint up, and to keep cleanup easy, I just put it on my paper. Now it doesn't take too much. And then you just, wow, one-handed, this is interesting. You just kind of dab it onto your sponge dauber, and then maybe you could see this one, then you just lightly tap it onto the felt. If I had two hands, I would be totally holding the top of the stencil down right there. And I got it I was a little heavy-handed up there, but I think we can make that work. The second one that I'm making is actually going to be for a craft fair. So that's the basic idea of that. And so I'm going to do this other one off camera and then set up the moon the same way and then show you how I applied that paint. So give me a sec. I thought you'd like to see the reveal on the stars. So that's what they look like once you take the stencil off, which they came out pretty cool, pretty distressed looking. So let me get the moon set up here. Okay, so one thing too to mention when you're setting this up, this stencil, which is 4.5 wide and like 8.5 tall, is not quite large enough, as you can see, to go the whole way. The top doesn't matter, nor the bottom, because the yarn will help cover that up and you don't even notice it. But the side is, and so what I do is I line up the edge of the stencil with the widest part of the curve, so the main portion of it gets covered with stencil. So then I set this one up similar to the other one. I put a piece of tape under the felt piece and stuck it down to the paper, and then I press down on the middle of the felt piece and then use my thumb and secure the other piece of tape down. If you have two hands, it's easier. So then here, let me get my paint. Let me actually tape this sheet of paper down. Hold on. Okay, so here we have it. That's my little blob of iridescent medium. Normally I put that on a piece of copy paper, but since I only have one hand, I got this taped to the desk because of that as well. So what I did earlier was, it seemed like if I just took it like that, a little bit on the spatula, and then ran it over, like troweled it on, just like you were going to put foiling paste on, or foiling gel, I mean. You just press it through the stencil. It got really good coverage, and actually it was pretty darn quick. And let's see. So then, and so I just did a little bit on the top. So when you take it off, you don't really notice because the yarn actually covers up the fact that the pattern's not there. So let me take the stencil off and show you what that looks like. So there you have that. I think that came out really cool. And then where it's a little bit naked there from not having any of the paint on, that'll actually get covered up with yarn and you won't even notice it. The same with the top and the bottom. So let me take this off, set it aside to dry, and do the other one, and then I'll get back to you on the next part. Okay, so there we have the second one. The other thing I wanted to say too is you want to make sure you get all the little, these little pieces, the little holes, insert the little pieces that come out of the holes. You want to make sure that you don't have them on where you're trying to stencil. You want to make sure to brush all those off, those little pieces off, so they don't get into the paint. The other thing too is when you put the paint on like this, you want to let it dry. It dries fairly quickly actually, considering it's so thick, but you want to let it dry for at least a couple of hours. That you could actually get the regular pouncing method you can get away with. That takes just a few minutes, maybe 30 minutes, and they're dry, because it's not so thick. So let me get this portion cleaned up, and then I'll show you how to do the other part. Okay, so the second part is, or this next part rather, that you want to do is go ahead and stitch together with the yarn all your pieces. In this case, because the other ones are drying, I'm going to do the stars. And so what you do is you stack the two pieces of inner poly fill together, lining up all the little holes, and they line up pretty good. Like you can see, wait, right there. You can see how you can see right through them. You can see that they line up. And when you put the felt on the top and the bottom, they actually line up really nice, and you can thread them really easy. I get about 8. I use this giant needle. It's probably for this even. It's just really big. Here, in comparison to a normal sewing needle, it is quite large. So I get about 8 to 10 feet of yarn, and I thread it through. I leave it opened, and then I don't tie a knot or anything. I just make sure that it doesn't pull through as I'm pulling it through. And here, let me start it, and then you can see. Okay, so I went ahead and started it. I leave about this much of a tail, and you want to make sure when you're doing it that you keep going in the holes, all the holes, the same direction that you started. And so I basically start and go from the front to the back, then come around and go down through the front again into each hole, making sure I go around the edge to get that nice little detail there. And then once you get all the way around, all you do is you just tie it, you leave the same amount on the end, and you tie a knot, and then I just tied a little bow on the top and trimmed the two tails. So let me get, and so a couple things. When you get towards the end of threading it all, the yarn starts to look a little bit worn from going in the holes. But don't worry about that, because it looks really nice when it's all done. And you don't even notice that part of it. So let me thread this one, and then I'll show you. One other thing too, while you're threading it, you want to go kind of at not too fast. If you go too fast, because the yarn is so long, such a long piece to go all the way around, you'll get a knot in it. The knot's not that big of a deal, but it makes it annoying when you're trying to thread the rest of it. So you want to make sure, and then towards the end it starts to get a little bit twisted, so you want to just keep an eye on it a little bit more towards the end, because it starts to get twisted up, and so you want to go a little more slow, that way you don't get the knots. Okay, so this is what it looks like so far. I'm almost done. I didn't want the camera to time out, so I thought, oh, I'll show you this part. So let me finish up the last couple sides there, and we'll show you how I tied it. Okay, so this is it at the end, all stitched up. And like this, you can see that the yarn isn't fresh and it's starting to come unraveled. And it doesn't even, and starts to get like twisted. See how it's twisting like that, like there? It's not a problem. You just want to make sure towards the end, especially on the moon, that when you're coming, I went around the outside and came on the inside. And towards the end, it was really getting unraveled, and I got a knot in the middle of it because I wasn't careful. And so every time you would go and you get to the knot, it would like jerk the needle out of your hand. So then you had to, so you just want to be careful on the end of that one. So on the last one, on the last hole, I went through the top again. And so then what I do is I just tie this in a knot here, and then I tie a bow on the top of it. So let me do that. Okay, so there you have it. And so the bow, when I finished tying a regular bow, I then took the 2 loops and tied them together in a knot. So that way the bow wouldn't come undone, and then trim the ends. So then what I'm going to do from here is, on the back, I'm going to thread through right there. I'm going to thread through right there another piece of yarn, the length that I want, and tie a knot and cut it off back here. And then that way it looks pretty when it's hanging. And so then after that, then what I did was I cut, hold on. Okay, so there you have it. How cute is that? I just threaded through there, tied the knot, cut it pretty short. See there, you can see just a little tiny piece, so you don't even notice it on the front. You won't even see it when it's hanging. And then, so then what I did was I took this end, folded it in half, and thread it through the needle. Thread it through the needle like that. It was really simple because it's a giant, whoa. Don't look at the dirty floor, people. It's got a giant hole in it. And so then I thread it through here, that loop there, and then I tie it in a knot. So let me do that. All right, so there you have it. So then what I did with these guys is I just did the same thing. I, put a substantial piece on there so I could figure out where I wanted it. And so when I hung them, I hung the blue one from the bottom down here and tied a bow on that one. I tied a knot and then tied the bow of the yarn, so that way it wouldn't come off. And then up here, I just picked a point where I wanted it to hang from and tied a really small knot, thread it through 2 loops, and then cut it off so that way you couldn't see the end piece. And then up here, I did the same thing. I thread it through the loop and then tied a knot on the back and cut it really short so you couldn't see it. So then on the top, all I did was, like we did on the bottom of the stars, I thread the loop of ribbon through where I wanted to hang it from, and you just kind of hold it up and pick, what looks the nicest, and then you just thread it through and tie a little knot at the top. And then you have this really fun baby mobile that comes out so darling. It is so fun. And so I just made sure to keep all the links, so the stars were staggered. So let's see, okay, so I got a ruler. This ribbon up here is about let's see, it's 8 inches, so it'd be a 16-inch loop of ribbon there. This star is hanging at, about 5.5. This, from its hanging point, this star here is about 6.5. And then this guy up here is a little bitty short one. That one's hanging at about 1.5 inches, 1 3/4, roughly, is how far down that one is. And I thought that, and then the ribbon length, I don't know if I said, but the ribbon length is they're about 20-inch pieces, so they have about 10-inch, between 8 to 10-inch tails. And I thought it just balanced it really nice and made it come out super cute. It is darling. So anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. It's a little bit longer than I wanted, but it was super fun. Have a great rest of your weekend. See you soon. Bye.